Hi, good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here and to accept this award. Okay, so, okay, great. The presentation is up. Do I have to click on? Okay, great. All right, so I'm being awarded here for category 1, which is an idea under development. Basically, the idea that we worked on, right, it's a team of 4 of us, and we're basically looking at how we can use assistive technologies to help persons with visual impairment, whether they are blind or low vision, to be able to navigate a space without the use of their cane. And so we looked at wearable technologies as a way of doing that. So I need to meet the team. The first person is Mr. Marlon Pareo. Marlon is a very dynamic speaker. He has lots of ideas. And about 4 years ago, I met with Marlon at a competition called Startup Weekend. And Marlon pitched the idea that, here's what, I'm blind, and I think that I need something that will be able to help me. And when I listened to Marlon's pitch, I said, wow, if we could have self-driving cars, why can't we develop a device that could help the blind be able to navigate without the use of their cane? And so I looked at the different artificial intelligence algorithms and the sensors that you could use. And so we kind of pitched an idea, which was a little bit rough. But at that point, we were able to get enough support for the idea to be able to develop it, develop a good concept. And we won that competition. And after that, we actually applied to a program called Idea to Innovation, and we were able to get grant funding in order to develop a prototype, which I'll show you a little bit later on. So that's Marlon. Asinat came on the team a little bit later, maybe about a year afterwards. And Winston Blackwood, who is Jamaican, by the way, he is the electronics person that would have helped us with the development. And he's not here today, but he has played a very influential role in terms of the development. So I want to give you a little background about blindness, right? And some of the challenges that people face when it comes to navigating. So I noticed that we have several persons in the room who are blind. Could anybody just stand up for the back? Just so I could see the numbers. All right, so I'm seeing 2. All right, great. So you all would know these challenges. You all live it. But for the rest of us, we don't really understand it unless you close your eyes and you try to navigate a space, right? Even just outdoor environments or even sometimes indoor environments can be very hazardous. So there are a couple of key issues. Firstly, you have to know where you are, right? And you have to know where you want to go. So you have to know what is the orientation you have to take in order to get to your destination. And along the way between you getting to where you want to go, so you have to avoid obstacles. You have to basically avoid collisions. And another thing is that the environment is not static. We live in a changing world. So you have to be able to anticipate when things change around you. So there are a lot of challenges. And so we need to be able to alleviate some of those challenges. But it goes further than that. So when we look at the market, we realize that there is a great need for assistive technologies to help the blind be able to navigate. But when we look in terms of organizations in the Caribbean and what solutions are available, we don't see any, right? There's nothing commercially ready on the market that somebody could use. So we looked at that, and we looked at how we could actually develop something that would be both aesthetically pleasing, would be reliable, and stuff like that. So in terms of the environment, right, there are several design principles that you need to look at, right? Obstacle avoidance is a critical one, right? Being able to identify what it is you're looking at. Those are some of the key things that people need to have when you're navigating. Now, I'm going to give you just a little bit of stats. So, number 39, keep that number in mind, right? There are 39 million people around the world who are blind. And that means that this is a big problem, right? And so, if you look at that market, what you identify is that most of the people live in developing communities, right? Developing countries. And so you have that there's a challenge of finance, right? Because you don't have the money necessary to pay for all of the expensive assistive technologies that are available on the market. So a key consideration for developing this device is ensuring that it is within a price point that the community can pay for it. So we looked also at the market opportunity. And what we noted is that there are several applications which are available on the phone that do help persons with disabilities, in this case visual impairment, to navigate. But none of them really take into consideration the challenges that people have with avoiding obstacles. So they may tell you where you are, they may in a city, and they may help you get to a particular location, but along the way, you're going to encounter obstacles. So we looked at what is commercially available, and you'll see from the image as well that we're looking at what is under development. And so the Connect C, which is basically one of those Microsoft products, they're using that here to be able to navigate within a space. But of course, there's a major drawback to it, which is it's very bulky. And in my case, when I show you my prototype, you'll also see that it's very bulky as well, right? So we have to look at avenues that we can take to actually reduce the size of the technology and make it much more acceptable so that people can wear these assistive devices without feeling like, you're standing out. So, our ICT solution. Basically, we developed the MobiAssist prototype to be able to navigate within a 10 by 10 space, right? So you could actually detect obstacles within a particular range. For calibration purposes, to kind of mimic what it would be like if someone had vision, we allowed for the person to detect within 10 feet and just 3 feet to the sides, so that it doesn't give too much information, because that is a major problem. Too much information could also lead to confusion. So with the financing that we got from the Eye to Eye, we engaged the University of West Indies Electrical Engineering Department to develop a prototype that you see here, and which I have on stage, which I'll demonstrate to you as well. Well, show you at the end of it, right? And so we use several ultrasonic sensors together with a microprocessor and Bluetooth to communicate back with the cell phone. And the cell phone then processes the information on it and says to the blind individual, in this case, Marlon, left clear, right blocked, right clear, left blocked, just to give you some guidance. Now, we could have given much more elaborate instructions, but one of the things that we found from doing research is that people don't necessarily want to be bombarded with too much information. So the simplicity of the instruction was more or less a strategy to ensure that they are able to get what they want without having too much mental processing to do in analyzing that information. In addition to that, there's also the need for you to hear what's going on around you, right? So we had to ensure that it was simple, they could focus on the instruction, but at still at the same time, take into consideration all of the different activities that are going on around them. So I want to demonstrate to you now in terms of, this is us here, this is Marlon and myself in the lab. And I'm going to show you Marlon utilizing the device to be able to navigate several obstacles. And you're also going to see the developers at the engineering laboratory who will be giving a little bit of information. So could you play that for me now?
Right, so it says left or right, I'm going this way. Say left. Something in front of me, we turn right, but I want to get so.
Remember, you have two sets of feedback on the front sensor. You have the vibration, which is half second on, half second off, and then you have audio feedback and a constant on vibration. If you are 3 feet away. So you have to continuously, once you pick a direction, you make the movements in between directions. This tool says
Pretty much stuck here.
Yes.
So
you went through some serious maneuvering just now. That was pretty good.
because what
Yeah,
happens,
keep bypass a lot of stuff, right?
Bypass on that.
block me?
That's kind of cool. Yeah, because in a very odd spot, right?
Yeah.
you're actually in a
That's a very-
guzzled spot, so it's
That is
trying
a
to
very
get you out
difficult
of the
spot to
guzzled
get to.
spot. Safely out of the guzzled spot.
So I'm still, wanna go this way. But you left. Alright. So left again.
You just detect walls and all
Yeah, you reach it into the space.
Yeah, see,
Not saying stop.
Yeah.
Once
Oh.
you,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a wall.
that's a
Double.
wall, yeah.
So you just breathe through the whole thing.
this is good.
I must say it was difficult.
All right, great. So we did this back in 2014, right? We, as you can see, we were able to develop a prototype that demonstrates that it can be done. But we needed support in terms of taking it from simply having a prototype to a product that we could distribute on the market. And so that's actually a very big leap in terms of ICT development and in the Caribbean, because without the investor support or sometimes even the knowledge, it's a bit of a challenge. So one of the things that we have to look at right now is how do we miniaturize the electronics? How do we create the PCB boards or custom make those things so that we could actually have the intellectual property protection in place, right? The aesthetics behind it, right? There needs to be industrial designers who could look at it and maybe place the appropriate design in terms of how do we make it wearable, right? How do we make it nice so that people would not feel or how walking through the streets with this device on them, it could become a seamless part of their daily living so that the people may not even recognize to some extent that they're depending on technology to actually navigate, right? So I want to end my presentation by stating that the only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision, right? And this was by Helen Keller. And Helen Keller wrote several books, but I remember reading as a child, Helen Keller's story. Fortunately, I had parents who allowed me to learn about different things. And so I had the experience of reading about the blind and her experience growing up as a child being both deaf and blind and how she was able to overcome her challenges. And she had a tutor who was able to give her some help, teaching her how to communicate using her fingers, which was really interesting. In addition to that, I guess I could share as well in terms of me. I've gone to school with several friends who were hearing impaired. So part of me growing up, I always had some influence in terms of interacting with people with disabilities and understanding their needs, right? So this is one of the reasons why I'm here, because when I saw Marlon, I thought, hey, I could work on a device with him, and I could give back in some way, right? But what I really want to say with respect to that is sometimes the way in which we educate students, there's somewhat of a division between persons who have disabilities and persons who, don't. And if it is we were to have the both groups educated together, then there's a lot of amazing things that could happen. So I really want to end with just that statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations again. Oh, it's a gift for me. Oh my God. Can you explain?
Oh, sure. Okay, so I actually have the device here that you've seen Marlon demonstrated. And yes, as you can see, there are the electronic sensors, ultrasonic sensors around here. It's an array of 9 of them. And basically, they're pointed in different angles just to kind of pick up what may be on the ground or at head level height, and at about 180 degrees in terms of in front of you. So you get to see things to your side as well, right? We have, at this point here, and as well as at this point here, we have vibration motors that would allow for tactile feedback. So for instance, if somebody is both deaf and blind, it can help, right? So they would not necessarily rely on the audible portion of it, they would rely on the vibrations to tell them what's in front of them or to the sides, right? So anybody who wants to probably see the device, get to probably interact with it, you can come and check me afterwards. All right, thanks.